Hey, what's up, guys? It's been a while since I did a video where I just talked to the camera, kind of free form. I have an idea for a video, so I hit record just now and I'm gonna do it. And this video is called A Message to Me, the 15-year-old me, which was 15 years ago. Pretty cool. Um, I was really struggling to produce. I was trying to figure it out. I was working on a really crappy laptop using Fruity Loops 3.6 back when it was called Fruity Loops, and I was like really frustrated I wasn't able to sound like, you know, the people that I wanted to sound like. All I wanted in life was to be one of those guys that just, made records and made music, and that's what they did. So yeah, this is a message to me 15 years ago. Like, if I could jump through, I don't know, the wall or something and be like, hey, this is what you need to do. Shut up, quit doing that, pay attention, you know what I mean? And I just like grab me by the collar and be like, this is what you need to do. You know, I got, I started a little bit later, kind of taking these things seriously, and a bit of a late bloomer. I wasn't making like super mega hits when I was 12 years old. Like the sentiment is nowadays that you need to be able to do that, which is another subject. So, first thing is, I have them written down here on my notes. I'm in the studio, by the way. Anyway, don't worry about what things sound separately. What's important is what they sound like together. And yeah, I'm going to be repeating this a couple times. Focus on what everything sounds like together. Like, you can work forever in a day on a clap or on a kick, and a lot of people brag about that. It's like, oh, I spent 2 months on this clap, I spent 5 hours on this snare. I'm like, what are you doing? Just try another snare. You know what I mean? It's kind of frustrating, but I would spend hours being like, why am I focusing on this kick? And when you listen to something over and over again, like a kick or something, it loses its meaning. The context is within the track, not separately. Like, no one listens to the multi-channel audio. Only you will ever do that. What's important is what things sound like together. Which brings me to my next message. Mind you, I'm probably pinning myself on the ground right now, screaming in my face. If I could go back, I would say this. Next up, production is reduction. I'm not quite sure who said that, but someone said that, quoting a particular producer. Maybe it was. Yeah, I don't quite know who it was, but someone said that, and the message here is live and breathe. Production is reduction. You're gonna want to EQ things and take things away. You're gonna want to preserve dynamics, but take a lot of the body away. A lot, as in, between 1 and 4 dB. Don't go overkill. If something isn't quite, if the clarity isn't quite there in the mix, don't boost a frequency. Go to the other tracks and take away. It's carving. 90% of the time, you're going to be EQing things out, not in, out. And back to my previous point, it's what things sound together. It's okay if that kick, doesn't have as much power as what you originally had it. Like a lot of the Vengeance stuff, mind you, Vengeance wasn't really around when I started, but a lot of the Vengeance stuff is full frequency, full power, super loud. You're going to want to carve out even more. So that's just the change of the times. And once you get things sounding good together, you're going to be in good shape. Another point, this one's actually really important. I wish I knew this. If it sounds good louder, then it's wrong. Make it sound good quiet, and it will sound amazing loud. What that means is, you'll be tempted you'll keep on wanting to turn it up, and if it sounds really good when it's loud, that's a thing that us humans with our ears, we have a cognitive bias. If you compare two sounds and one's louder, it will sound better. You'll always choose a louder sound. But what I mean with this is if, it only sounds good loud, that means that, well, speakers will distort when they're turned up loud. And the reality is most mixing engineers and producers have really large speakers, but they barely use them. Those are only there to impress the client. When the client comes in and wants to listen, you'll turn those big ones up really loud, and that'll impress the client. Usually they'll work on like NS10s. I have Adam A7Xs, kind of smaller tier, but a lot of clarity in the mid-range, and they sound really good quiet. I ask T-Nile, I listen to things and I mix and I work on music very quietly, because I know that if it sounds good and everything has a spot quiet, it'll sound amazing loud. When it's loud and it sounds good, those speakers are distorting and there's some saturation going on. And if that's the case, add a saturation plugin. There's some really good ones out, maybe run it through a tape emulation, or run a couple sounds through Saturn. That'll emulate that, and always test as low as you can go, like quiet, like no louder than a conversation, no louder than me talking right now. That's exceptionally important, and something that changed my life. Like, I was just killing my ears on headphones and like speaker systems. There's this whole thing where it's like you have to listen to it loud. Anyway, I'm fucking swearing for one, but whatever. I'm just going off on a tangent. Listen and work on stuff quietly, very quietly, and get things, quiet speakers. Listening to a mix quietly is it has no patience for you. It doesn't care who you are. When it's quiet and there's no clarity in the sounds and there's masking. Anyway, let's move on, because I tend to go off. Here's something that was around when I was coming up, when I was a wee lad. This was about the time. There was a time around 2004, 5, where there was this Logic Pro fetish, especially on like message boards. Remember message boards? There was like this whole Logic Pro hype, where you had to have a Mac if you wanted to make it, and you had to have Logic. And there was this whole Armin van Buuren worship, and this Logic Pro worship. Funny enough, Macs have totally lost the plot, and PCs and Windows and stuff like that far exceed, and stuff like that. Logic, I guess, is good, but I'm not a Logic guy. I was never a Logic guy, but I did buy into the hype where you needed Logic, and there was like these arguments online. You can find them, and it's like, it was, yeah, if you wanted to make trance, you needed Logic. No, if you wanted to make trance, you needed a Mac, and if you wanted to make electro, you needed a PC. Like, there were arguments online that there was differences in the sound, the audio processing in Mac products, these things, compared to PCs, when they both run on int. It's weird. There's a lot of throwing mud, I guess. Here's an important one. This one's really important. Don't focus on a single sound for longer than what frustrates you. If you're trying to get something going and you can't quite get it, throw it out. I wrote down, move on and live with it. Spend your time developing skills in mixing and arrangement as well. Finish a track no matter how bad it sounds. It's well worth it. Meaning, you're not going to go from zero to making something compelling like your first track. Like, your first track is supposed to be shit. it's supposed to. Like, your first painting isn't that great. What you're doing is you are developing technique. You're developing a style. You're getting used to it. You're building muscle memory. You are formulating theories in your head, which you are then testing. You know, I have a theory that boosting this EQ here will make it sound good. Okay, that didn't work. Okay, let's refine the theory. Maybe it's reducing it. Maybe it's adding a compressor, you know, and then eventually, you know, that's another video, applying the scientific method to anything that you do. You know, figuring out or thinking of a hypothesis and then testing it, and then, you know, relaying those results or that experience to your new theory to do things, and that's how you improve. It's really cool. But yeah, just if it gets to the point where a sound isn't quite working, move on, make a new sound, finish the damn track, finish tracks. And with that being said, this is the final message. Don't worry about other people's feedback. If you make an amateur track with 100 things wrong with it, you have already accomplished something that not a lot of people can do. The goal is to grow and get better each day. Feedback on forums isn't going to help really. And what I mean by that is, you know, you can, like, the goal of feedback isn't something that you should strive for. And, you know, as long as you're improving, if you hit a roadblock, absolutely, you know, but you don't necessarily need feedback, because we have like YouTube and interviews and Twitter and books. I have so many books on product, you know, you have all these things. And yeah, as long as you're improving. And yeah, I stand behind that statement. If you make an amateur track with 100 things wrong with it, you've already accomplished something not a lot of people can do. And there's a famous quote, but I don't quite remember it. It's like something to do with criticism, and you shouldn't listen to criticism from people who know not success or unsuccess, I guess. Don't listen to people that haven't done it. You know, there's always someone online that's going to be like, oh, this is bad, and it's like their insecurity that's telling you. Feedback from friends, maybe it'll work. Feedback, like taking your own advice kind of feedback, is a good thing to do. Comparing your finished product to another person's, like your, like comparing it to music that you enjoy, that you're trying to kind of sort of emulate, is a good idea, because then you learn, and then your next track will be 1 or 2% closer to that, and it's all exponential. And eventually you get to the point where you'd be surprised of the things that you can accomplish and do. And yeah, that's a message to me 15 years ago, which translates in the current day to advice and stuff like that. Anyway, hope you learned stuff. Take care and have a good one.